rolling.
Welcome back to the Get Louder podcast. We got a special guest. We got Eric Uresk, a black belt, MMA fighter, a mindset coach, a writer, an MMA coach legend.
That's right.
Trained in Phuket, Thailand. Phuket, Thailand.
And that's how we starting it off, baby. Fuck it, Thailand.
With the Phuket top team, you know, he's trained Dom Cruz, Jeremy Stevens, and many, many more. He is a San Diego legend.
Eric, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah,
nice to officially meet you. Welcome. How you feeling today?
Good, man. Really good. Really just like up at it, inspired right now. Just kind of in a expand mode.
Right.
As we get to the end of the year, I'm just kind of turning it on a little bit early to move into the to the new year. So
yeah, you were mentioning that before we started the show. What does that look like for you, kind of prepping pre-New Year for the next year?
Well, it's just like, you know, whatever I've been doing got me to a certain point, right? Mm-hmm. And it's okay but there comes a point in time in business, I think, where you get to, like, you're in a growth stage, okay? And then there's like maybe a maintenance stage. But sometimes that maintenance stage, I find I actually start sliding backwards. Like, if I'm trying to hold on to what I've built and keep it the same, I don't think business works like that, right? And it's not like I'm one of those guys that's like, I've got to have, you know, profit margins improving every year in a way that's like unhealthy. I think just the natural flow of things asks me to expand into something, into just a greater version of what I'm already doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so right now, I'm in that expansion phase. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. I'm familiar with it.
Hell yeah.
That's true, because what they say is, like, if you're not growing in business, you're regressing.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's no such thing as I'm just gonna be right here.
Yeah.
If you're not growing even a little bit, you're
Right.
regressing.
Staying the same is growing.
And it's actually easier to regress than it is to expand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and dude, you know, so like I spent my whole life in fight gyms. Like, I was a nightclub bouncer and a fighter. Like, those are the jobs that I've had pretty much my entire life. I mean, in my early 20s, I worked construction, but other than that, I've never had a real job. So prior to open up this coaching business, I didn't know what it was like to actually make real money. So, okay, first 2 years go amazing. And then I find myself like trying to clutch onto it and keep the safety and security, the predictability. And in business, it's not really predictable.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you do your best to be able to see things coming, but it's really hard to maintain a certain level of predictability. And so I find myself trying to hold on to this thing. And the more I was holding on, I started to get more into a scarcity mindset than a growth mindset. And, you know, it took me a little bit to catch on to that. That's what was happening. I was like, all right, it's time to grow and expand, because the current version of who I am now, I need some skills to upgrade that and to, you know, to bring this thing to the next iteration of whatever it's going to become.
Well, let me ask you real quick, man. So you said you're finally making some real money, right? And I remember I came to this crossroads when I was like 22, 23, when I'm at this crossroads, you know, I'm entering my mid 20s, and I'm fucking broke, and I love training, love doing jiu-jitsu, fighting, all that, but I didn't know anybody who was making some legitimate money in doing it. You know what I mean? Like, the people I was like, you know, the people who made it to UFC was like War Machine, you know, like Herman Torado was pretty successful. Barry Yoshida, he was doing pretty decently as well. He's a legend. And I was like, man, the chances of getting into the UFC are real slim, you know what I mean? I was like, I don't think I have the genetics to get me there, you know what I mean? I could probably work hard, probably won't even touch the UFC. And so I was like, well, I have to make some money. And then now, knowing what I know now with marketing and online coaching wasn't a thing back in the day, and I didn't see even the coaches needed to have other part-time jobs and still be broke and stuff, right? You're a coach because you wanted to get laid. And so how did you go from not making real money? And when I'm talking about real money, you know, like, I mean, that's different for everyone else, but I would say like real money is like probably making like, how much would you say? Like maybe like 70 grand and above is making some real money?
Yeah, I'd say that's like if you're making 70 grand, your basic needs are met. And you don't have to be too stressed.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I would say, you know, in 20s, definitely 70 grand is pretty good, right?
I want to say 100 grand is making
but
real
100 grand
money.
is making real money. It's I think it's entry level to like, okay, this is good money. I can live good if I'm smart pretty much anywhere with that.
And
If I don't overly extend myself.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you like? What was the mindset shift, or like what was the career shift that got you to making some real money?
Well, I wish I would have discovered this in my 20s, but I didn't, right? So, man, I lived the broke fighter life for a long time, like living above Alliance MMA with a bunch of savages, beds on the floor, like very like subhuman conditions. And I was willing to do that because the dream was so important to me at the time. I think, and honestly, I only saw my skill set at the time as to do with the fight world. Right? I knew I could fight well, and I knew I could coach well. So I knew I had those two things. So I was just kind of following the path and the opportunities that came in front of me based off the skills that I had at the time. As I retired from fighting and stepped into coaching MMA, I really took a holistic approach to coaching MMA. Like, it's not just what we do here. It's your whole life is going to affect the finished product. Your whole life is going to affect your ability to focus. And so I began coaching guys. Guys would come into the gym, and I would see like fearful reactions during like a sparring session. And so I would be having these guys confronting these fears and going a little bit deeper than just the physical side of training. And and I've always been one of those guys that put me in a room with a person, and we're just having a conversation. They're going to start telling me that their deepest secrets of their life real fast. And it's just, I don't know, it's a safety thing. Like, people generally just feel safe to open up like that. So then I start seeing all these other gifts. Then I start writing about my experiences through my own mental processes and just putting them up online. And this probably started somewhere in around 2015. I start doing this. And I start writing about my processes and putting them up online, and people are loving them. They're just honest. This is what I was working through and the conclusion that I've come to. And so I started enjoying the engagement with people. And somehow that all shifted into what I'm doing today. And it wasn't like a decision. It was, I gained the skills necessary to be able to do something else, right? To do what I'm doing now. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life in the fight world. I thought I'm going to have to become a famous coach to make any kind of real money. Otherwise, I'm just going to be struggling. Or I'm going to have to live in a third world country and do this where I can live. Well, I did that before. I lived in Thailand, probably made like $40,000 a year and lived like a king, right? So it was like making 3 to 4x that. So I was living good. I was back in the U.S. for 2 years as COVID started, and I got back here in 2019. As COVID begins, we're struggling. Like, gyms are getting shut down. We're having am I going to be able to work? It was a really scary time. Everything starts to go online, and I get, about a year into COVID, I get the offer to have the head coaching job at Tiger Muay Thai, biggest gym in Asia at the time. Peter Yan trains there. Alex Volkanovski was training there at the time. Like, they had a real big lineup. So it was a dream job to get offered this. Unfortunately, there's a travel requirement, and I'll just let you guys figure that out so that you guys don't get demonetized.
Didn't meet the requirement.
You didn't meet the requirement.
Right? And well, thing is, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. Doesn't feel like something I want to do, but I want this job, so I'm going to do it. So I do the first part of the requirement, and it puts me in the hospital.
Wow.
Right? So now I had a nice little apartment. I'm finally just building back a life in San Diego after about 2 years. I get rid of my apartment. I get rid of basically everything that we own in the apartment. I keep my car and my bank account and my wife. And we go to New York to spend some time with my parents while we get the visas ready to go back to Thailand. So all that's done. Then I go fulfill the first part of the requirement. Right. Get put in the hospital, and I'm like, I'm not doing the second part. I'm like real scared. I'm like, my heart's fucked up. Like, this isn't cool. I'm better now.
Good.
So I'm like, what am I gonna do? We gave away all our stuff, like my job, everything. and I'm also like in the process of some like serious personal growth stuff that I got turned on by a couple of friends of mine. So I'm getting training in leadership and emotional intelligence and all this personal growth stuff. And so through that training, I see the ability to pivot. I always knew there was going to be an opportunity to bring my style of mentorship to people on a grander scale and be, as much as I hate this term, a life coach. And so from that is where I decided to create this business. Actually, my business is 2 years old, like a couple days ago, right? And it's so wild how that happened. Also, kind of important to mention, I have a lot of experience with addicts and recovering addicts. I've been sober for almost 20 years, so nice. That experience of healing as well is helpful in what I do. Yeah. Also.
Yeah, because a lot of fighters also suffer from addictions as well. Oof. You know, in my personal belief, except for like I'm noticing a little change in like the new generation, but like you don't become a fighter without no trauma and without no issues. Yeah. You're fighting for a reason. You're trying to fight something within you. And also, honestly, like at least like the old school way, it was like human rights violations, like in the gym. You know what I mean? Like it was just like. Talk about abuse, and you had to be a certain type of person to take that type of abuse and come back for some more, and they're pretty much trying to kick you out the gym, and they're like trying to get rid of you. They're trying to weed out the weak, and you're like, I ain't fucking going anywhere. I'm gonna keep coming back. I'm gonna keep taking this abuse.
And then they wonder why they made no money back then. Right? Yeah, the worst business model in the world.
No wonder all the gyms closed.
But it's literally he's speaking the truth, right? That's how it was. It was cut out a little different back then. Like, you had to prove that you not only like wanted to be there, but that you deserved to be there. Yeah. And not the best business model. And,
you would like go into every training session thinking, am I gonna end up in a hospital today? Am I gonna live after this?
Yeah, it was a different type of training. I think it's better that it moved away from that model. I think it might have swung too far the other way to where a lot of the hard. Well, I think in just the general martial arts gym, it's great that like let's say anybody can go train BJJ, but I think sometimes it gets watered down where they take the hardship out of the training, you know. And I don't know, is it better that people train than don't train at all? I think there's different types of gyms for different people. I think it's important to keep the martial arts aspect of martial arts in it, and that like discipline and regularly enduring hardship is really important. Yeah. So.
Well, I remember like back in the day, like it was like you either became like the gym was like a place for like the misfits, you know, like it was a great place to go because your only other like option was like either like to join a gang or be in a gang or do some dumb shit, and you probably still did a little bit of both, but like, you know what I mean? Like it got a lot of people like out of trouble.
Took me off the street.
It takes a lot of people off the street, you know what I mean?
Took me off the street.
Gives them a positive outlet, like a healthier brotherhood in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Martial arts took me off the street. Like if I didn't have that direction and purpose, I would have ended up like the rest of my friends, you know?
So after COVID and 2020 and all that stuff happened where, you know, you tried to go. So did you end up going back to Thailand at all? So you didn't?
I went back just recently for a month vacation.
Okay.
But that was, that was like a few months ago.
So once you endured that and confronted, like what took place next? Like what was the next step?
While my wife and I we're like, okay, we're gonna start looking for places to live. Like we definitely don't want to stay on Long Island. It's a cesspool. We need to find something that's going to be suitable for us based off of, you know, me being the primary income. Right. Where can I get meaningful work and live someplace that's, you know, reasonably cool to live in? Right. So a couple of friends of ours invite us down to Richmond, Virginia. It's a up and coming city, and we're like, all right, we'll go check it out. We go down there, we meet a few people, and we end up staying with this guy that's like an old school MMA head, and he owned a gym, and I was like, hey, you mind if I run a practice for your guys just for fun? And brings me into his gym. I run a practice, and he says to me very, very complimentary, he says, dude, whatever you just did in there with those guys was magic, the way you interacted with them. He's like, it's a shame that you're wasting it on fighters. Right? and what he meant by that was that you're never going to make any money coaching fighters. And for the most part, that's true. He didn't know that in the back of my head, I want to get out of the fight game, and I want to get into working with people, you know, on their lives and you know, overcoming whatever things that they got going on.
So that was kind of confirmation then.
Confirmation.
Yeah.
To take it a step further, the next night we have a dinner with a friend of his that is a real big guy in the online coaching space, owns his own coaching brand. He coaches coaches on his system. He's got a really nice platform, makes good money, right? So we sit down, we have dinner, and we start, you know, exchanging stories and whatnot. The guy turns out to be a huge MMA fan. So I'm just, you know, telling him like kind of like behind the scenes stuff that I find trivial, but he finds incredibly interesting. Gives me his number and says, call me. We end up at the end of dinner just discussing that I'm actually looking to get into that space. So he gives me his number, says, call me. For the next couple of weeks, he starts taking calls with me and just starts helping me set up the structure of what a coaching business could look like.
Right.
And then I found out, I was like, okay, I want to make it so this thing's a thing as soon as I say it's a thing, right? I had a friend that I had been kind of talking to about some of the stuff he had going on in his life. And I said, hey man, listen, I want to take you out to lunch and I want to propose something to you. So we go out, and I knew I had a lot of trust with this guy. He says, listen, I'm going to start doing some online mentoring with people. And I know I'm going to knock this out of the park, so I'm going to offer you a really good deal. I think I gave him like 3 months for like $1,500. I said, I just need to get the momentum moving.
Right.
So this is what I'm prepared to offer you, and this is what it'll look like. And we go over that, sure. And it's like, so now I've got my first client, and I'm working with my first client, and we've got the ball is in motion. Okay, I put together, I think it was called like Martial Arts Masteries. I was initially like marketing to guys within the martial arts community because that's where I have the biggest audience.
Right.
And once I announced, put my little, you know, copywriting. I didn't even know what copywriting was at the time, but me and my wife figured it out. We put together all the graphics. She's good at graphic design, so put the whole little thing out there, announce it, put it on my Instagram. Boom, inbox is loaded with people that are interested.
Nice.
Right from the gate.
You made an offer.
Made an offer.
People accepted.
People accepted. and it started like that. Honestly, dude, I won this whole thing for like the first year.
Yeah.
And the first year was really successful, like shockingly successful.
Yeah.
And then the second year did even better. So it's like, you know, and then I was like, okay, I might have to start paying attention to some of these marketing principles at some time. But for right now, but from the beginning, it was just being really solid in relationships. I had a ton of trust built up with a ton of people, right? And that was huge. I had so much trust built up with so many people.
Right.
I was not understanding that I was already putting out value out there, and not just on the internet, but to any time that I'm interacting with people, I'm always putting out value there. As a matter of fact, most of my big clients to this day have just been people that I've either had an ongoing relationship of some sort with, or like chance encounters on a jiu-jitsu mat where I just, whatever they felt about my presence, and then, you know, we have a little conversation. I'm, you know, telling them what I do, and they're like, oh man, I'm interested to hear more about that. So some of it had nothing to do with my online presence at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, when I met you, it seemed like you've been doing that forever. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems so natural to you, and it was probably like not a shock. People probably thought you were doing that forever, and you kind of were on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
But now you can do it to a one-on-many basis based off of the use of the internet now.
Yeah.
And what was something? Because I remember you used to write something almost every single day. I'll see you write something every single day, something very insightful. And is the majority of your clients right now still in MMA or still in martial arts, or they're like business owners?
A lot of them do train martial arts, but most of them are pretty successful financially. And a lot of times they come from me because it's the work-life balance. So it's like they got the money, they got the toys, and it's like, is this all there is? And so one of the things that I've been able to do in my life is create a pretty well-rounded life, right? So like do what it takes to make my marriage work, my relationships work, with, you know, maintain relationships with my family, which, you know, traditionally used to be very chaotic, take care of my health, take care of my emotional state, right? Monitor my stress levels, right? Like make sure that I'm enjoying this whole thing, not just on this like purpose to get more money in an account and then what?
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of the clients that I work with are stuck in that capacity. A lot of clients that I work with are jammed up in relationships. And so they have a hard time with some of the dynamics of relationships, usually due to some trauma in their background or something like that. So I do have clients like that as well. I also get a lot of successful women that are heavy in their, you know, kind of like boss bitch phase, but then they're also like, but yeah, I also want to find a guy and be able to do that part of my life too.
Yeah.
Right? And so I can support them through some of that.
For sure.
Nice.
How did you, in the beginning phases compared to now, how did you structure your coaching? Like, was it just like, was there any kind of online thing, or was it just like phone calls? Was it like,
so in the beginning it was, in the beginning it was Zoom. So, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do one session a week for this long.
Right.
And based off whatever you got going on in your life. Okay.
Right.
And so, because the thing that I do really well is I help people create clarity quickly. Okay. So you might come to me like all confused about, you got a million moving parts in your life. You're stressed out. I could see the million moving parts and I can see the patterns and I can see what's missing, what could probably be helpful to you to add or mitigate some of these things, and paint a picture of clarity as a path back to some kind of peace, and not just peace, but progress. Okay. So it's my ability to do that. That's like more valuable than anything.
Yeah.
If you're not clear, you can't go anywhere.
Right,
if you don't know where you want to go, if you don't have a North Star, if you don't have a target, you're aiming all over the place. That's going to actually feel really disorienting.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So if you can have somebody that can regularly provide clarity, and then, you know, sometimes it's necessary for me to suggest paths forward. Sometimes just by suggesting the clarity, they know the steps forward intrinsically. So it's kind of different case by case. But so it started like that. And as I was doing this initially, I also dove so hard, so fast into gaining additional skills, like in this field, getting training on moving people through some of like the deep stored trauma they have, some of what they refer to as shadow work, like really confronting some of the darker parts of their psyche that's contributed to their limiting belief systems. Like when people have a hard time in relationships and they keep repeating the same pattern over and over again, they're doing it because subconsciously it's familiar and it's fulfilling some beliefs that they have about themselves, right? And it's like, it makes no sense logically. And so it can be frustrating if people are like, why don't you just make a different decision? And it's like, it's like being unaware of the operating system has taken over until you understand the operating system and you can go in there and create a different relationship with that operating system. It's going to decide for you.
Right.
With or without your permission,
Exactly.
right? So it becomes that person's responsibility then to do what necessary, and I can guide them in that, into getting acquainted with that operating system so that they can actually have a choice over what happens.
What do you feel like, because you've worked with a lot of people so far, what do you feel like is like the main trauma people have experienced that causes them to be the way they are?
I don't know if it's like a main trauma. What I could say is
The
this.
most reoccurring one.
I could say is this. Early on, people tend to get ideas about themselves as the story of who they are. Okay? And I'd say, and sometimes it's not always traumatic, it's just limiting, right? So I'd say each one of us has our own ideas about who we are, right? That idea of who we are is purely based off the past.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a story. At any time, if we have the know-how, we can step out of that story, right? My story was I'm a fighter and a fight coach, and this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And so all my decisions were made based off the presumption that I'm a fighter and a fight coach, and this is who I am going to be for the rest of my life. At one point in time, the story was I'm a drug addict and a criminal, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life because I didn't know how to do any different, okay? sometimes by fluke chance or just life experience, things get revealed to people where they can see past the story and they can see into the next, becoming the next version of themselves, right? So it doesn't always have to be traumatic, but when it is traumatic, it's so embedded in the nervous system that there's like an emergency brake that won't allow people to step past the discomfort of leaving that story, right? And they need support to do that. It's not something they can just snap their fingers and do. It's not a pull yourself up by the bootstraps situation. That's a time that a person needs support to work through that thing. It could be a lot of abandonment stuff. It could be a lot of stuff about worthiness, and that's generally what it looks like, the quality or the feeling of it. The circumstance that happened was all over the place. You get a lot of different things that happen. Early sexual abuse can happen, and when a kid gets abused young, a lot of times their ability to trust, their idea of safety, all gets kind of taken from them at a young age. And so how they feel in their body is going to change for the rest of their life based on that, and sometimes they don't notice the symptoms of it until they're, getting into their 30s, and all of a sudden they start feeling things they've never felt before, and they're like, why the fuck am I feeling like this? And it starts to make sense. All the decisions that they've made based off that event and the story that they've made around that event all start to make sense.
That makes a lot of sense. What are things that, like, you say you're trying to expand the business now? What does that look like, expanding the business?
So getting more into group coaching, right? So right now I'm mostly one-on-one work, which I really enjoy. It's when I work with somebody, it's really like a thorough journey. Like we're gonna be working together, and I'm not cheap, you know what I mean? Because of the time that I'm gonna spend with this person. Like we're gonna be working pretty in depth, and I'm very committed to getting the results that we want to get. But also, because I'm not cheap, I don't want to be pricing people out that I would really enjoy to work with either, and I don't want to just serve the people that can afford me, or my one-on-one rate. That is to say, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the ability to create a more group setting to where I can be giving value to people on a larger scale, and also people. There's something about when you're in a group setting, even if it's a group Zoom, and let's say like you guys are two participants, and you share something, or ask something and start getting some coaching on something, and then you start seeing how that, you can, you're like, oh, okay, that actually, I see a lot of myself in what just happened. Right. There's something about that, the benefits that we get from learning each other's shared experiences, and it also just kind of, if he shares something bravely or asks something bravely and steps out there, might give you the courage to step up and be like, man, if he can do that, I can do that too. And now you're ready to, dude, a lot of this stuff, it's like, it can be a little bit personal, and it may not, and it might be stuff that people have been holding on to for a long time, and they're just, because they've been holding on to it, and it's been such a guarded thing, it can be, you may not have a lot of clarity on what to even do with it. There could be a lot of confusion on what to do with it. And so moving through the confusion, moving through the clarity, getting into some clarity, man, that could be really, really helpful. And it doesn't always have to be like these deep, traumatic wounds either. It can be simpler stuff as well. And oftentimes it is.
Do you make, man, I remember I got finessed into this mindset coaching bullshit. not your shit bullshit, but this specific one. And I was so pissed off because I thought I was getting business coaching, which I needed help with. Like, because going from a hustler to a business, actual business, is a completely different game. Like hustling, like videos, you know what I mean? Like it's just about like hustling videos. You need videos, I give you videos. But turning that into a business with structure and all that stuff is what I really needed help with, especially from growing up so poor, not knowing how to do all this stuff. Anyway, so I got finessed into this business coaching. And I remember at one point the business mindset coaching was like, they made you, I wanted to know if you did this, like if you do this, but they're like, I want you to invent like someone you look up to, like give it a name, like a superhero name or something like that. Do you make your people do that? Okay, cool.
Was it like an animal or something?
Yeah, like whatever.
What's
like
your, like,
Captain, Captain Awesome, whatever. You give like this alter ego a name, and they want you to tap into this alter ego. And I sort of pissed off everyone because they got to me. They're like, "So who is your alter ego? Like, what is his name? Your alter ego superhero, whatever." I'm like, fucking Jeremiah Iroff, bro. Like, I'm my own superhero, bro. Like, I feel badass just being me. I was like, honestly, what you're talking about, some gay shit right now, thinking you're someone else right now? Like, you should think you're the most, like, awesome guy. Like, you should want to, like, strive to be who you want, like, who you are. You want to be the superhero. And
but did you see anybody else in the group
Let me ask
benefit from it?
So is this a group setting?
Yeah.
And was it online? Was it in person?
It was Zoom, yeah.
Zoom. How much did they charge you for this?
Oh, bro, I was like paying like probably like, it wasn't much. I think it was probably like $500 a month for 3 months.
I'm glad you only paid that because, yeah, that's some
Bro,
bullshit.
I was so pissed off. I was just in this group with a bunch of dorks. And like, and here's the thing at the end of the, like, so how like, you know, I paid for it and I'm open-minded. I'm like waiting, like maybe they will unlock something in me. You know what I mean? And keep in mind, I had to do a lot of mindset stuff on my own to get to where I'm at now.
Sure.
Plus I'm homies with like Jason Stewart. He forced me to do a lot of this stuff as well. So I was already like privy to what they were doing. And by the end of it, they're like, so like, what did you gain out of this? Were you able to like help you in your business or whatever? I'm like, to be honest, man, this was a waste of money and I feel finessed because I gave you I had no more money. I told you in the beginning, I'm giving you my last $1,500. I'm literally dead broke. You knew that. And now your excuse is, well, our main clients are people who are already successful and have money and then they need this type of stuff.
And you never told me that.
And I was like, well, I told you exactly where I was coming from and you still took my money, you know, and then like you guys are fake as fuck. You unfollowed me on Instagram afterwards.
Right.
You know, and I was like, I'll only talk shit about you for the rest of my life. Like, I'll only hate you. I fucking hope to never see you in person. I will literally call you out in front of everyone. I'll make myself look bad, and I'll make you look bad. I don't give a fuck. I fucking hate you so much.
It didn't affect you at all, though. It didn't affect you one bit.
I think you guys are a bunch of dorks and everything. Oh, my superhero.
Tell us how you real
fucking
feel.
Captain fucking awesome, whatever. Like, fucking assholes.
Well, let me ask you this: Did anybody in the group seem to get benefit from that?
Yeah, I think maybe them, maybe the other guys did. Everyone there was a dork, though. You know what I mean? But I don't know, like if that's all what mindset coaching is. You know what I mean? Like when I see you, like I started like you because I'm like, you're an MMA fighter. You have traumas as well. Like everyone there, I felt like just kind of like came from middle class, upper middle class. You know, they're all like successful and everything, and like and their traumas weren't like they're just like it's weird when you come from like trauma. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not saying I'm right or anything, but like. I believe that, like, when you come from, like, poverty, like true poverty, or you come from trauma, or you come from abuse and all this stuff, you just cannot relate to these people. You just can't relate to someone who grew up in middle class.
So can we talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Let's
Okay, cool. All right. So this is kind of a big piece of what I do. So notice all the stories that you have about, like, because I come from this, and this, like these labels that this is who I am, right? That's the identity, right? Based off the past. Now, if you're not conscious of it, yeah, I'm gonna fully be sucked into that. Like, this is who I am. Now, at the time, if you couldn't see any different, then that's the reality for you, right? So if I was gonna support you, it's like, man, look how many people I could be limiting myself from connecting with because of my stories about who I am versus who they are, right? Now, it's not a right or wrong. I don't care if you do or don't do that, right? Do you care if you don't do or don't do that?
Right.
As a business owner, do you care?
Yes, I do.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
do you
'cause
care?
I have to relate
do you
to these
care
people,
if you're cutting yourself off from a certain market because of old stories about who you are compared to who they are?
You know what I find myself doing? And I'm just going to be honest. And we ain't going to cut this up into a clip anyways. At least this part. Maybe we'll see. And then I catch myself sort of being empathetic enough to like, and being inquisitive to other people and worrying about their problems and being like, oh yeah, like, you know, sort of like, almost being like a dad or maybe just somebody who's just like, oh yeah, like, you know, catering to other people. But deep inside, I'm like, you sound like a bitch. You know what I mean? But like, I don't vocalize that or portray that or give that energy off at all.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, I'm just like you're crying about you got paint on your shoe and shit. Like there's other problems, you know what I mean, out there.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, dude, look, I used to be very similar in that, like, because I had a life of so much pain early on, I would constantly be comparing my pain to other people's pain.
Yeah.
Right. And a way to, I don't know, it was a way that I like propped up myself in some way that like your pain isn't, people's pain is relative to their experience. Right. If that wasn't true, we wouldn't have people dropping dead in North County left and right from fentanyl overdoses. Like, why are these rich kids doing opioids at such a crazy rate and dropping dead left and right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're rich. Yeah, they got a lot of money, and but their relationship with their parents is fucked up, or they got no purpose. Their pain is driving them into drugs the same way my pain drove me into drugs.
That's why, like my mom was a drug addict, right? Opioid addict, and she's been longer than I've been alive. And like when I was young, I was upset about it. As I gotten older, I realized that she is suffering from her trauma from her childhood. Yeah. And her only way of masking that pain, that's all heroin is, or heroin or fentanyl or opioids are. It's a medicine to numb you from the pain from your traumas. And so like, that's what, when I see people who do opioids specifically, or drugs, I see them as they're just putting a Band-Aid over their traumas. They don't know how to handle their traumas, and that's the only way they know how to feel good.
Yeah. I would say that's largely true for any drug, right?
Yeah.
It looks different, like what the thing does, but it's anything to get me out of feeling whatever it is that I don't want to feel.
Yeah.
You know, whether I'm conscious of it or not.
Do you have any clients that you come across that seek out your help, and then once you get into the program, you realize that it's really, really difficult, or that you can't help them because they're just closed off?
Why are you looking at me?
Yeah, I've you know.
I'm not talking about anybody specific.
Well, so usually it's good to vet that out beforehand, right? It's good to vet that out beforehand. So before we start working, it's like there's a clear understanding. We're going to be going into some stuff that's going to be uncomfortable, right? And so there's an agreement and a commitment beforehand to do so. In the event that happened, I guess we would have to have a conversation about, you know, what goes on from there. If a person is unwilling, I can't be willing for the person, right?
You know what I think it is too, coming from my perspective and just hating everyone. I think it's important on who the coach is.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I feel like and having they call it a lifestyle coach now, or my
life coach.
What was Socrates? What were the philosophers?
Sure.
They were people, you know. They were Marcus Aurelius's coach. You know what I mean? Their mentor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is no different.
I like mentorship better, to be honest, because it's a more suitable representation of what I do.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's about having the right coach for the right student.
Sure.
You know, like this guy who finessed me into his coaching, he wasn't the right fit for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
What made you think that he was, though?
Bro, they finessed me good, bro. They finessed me good.
Because I've experienced the same thing where, like, I've seen, like, a whole bunch of coaches and teachers in different industries, and I would see them, and never take any action. And all of a sudden, I saw one guy who I guess saw a lot of people that I saw myself in.
Well, here's
you know
the
what I'm
difference.
saying? And then all of a sudden, I was like, ooh, I like this more because I feel like he's speaking like me, he's acting like me, he's telling stories that I relate to. Yeah. I'll give him my money because I feel like I'm the closest. He'll be able to help me, because even though everyone else probably would have been able to help me, but for whatever reason, I only related to him, and that's why I took action. Yeah,
exactly. Well, how these guys got me was they put me on a big group call with all their clients, and within those clients were a lot of marketing leaders, a lot of guys who are who are really fucking good at marketing, really good at the type of marketing I'm doing, and I wanted to get closer to them. And so I thought I was gonna join this network of people of these top marketers who I'll be able to ask questions from, get advice from. I didn't think I was entering mindset coaching. I thought I was entering like business coaching, and specifically for our business, right? And then it turned into, oh no, this is a mindset coach, because if you don't have the right mindset, you can't make money, woo, right? And
Yeah, see,
that's how I got finessed. I wasn't seeking mindset coaching, and I wouldn't have seeked it from them because they were all dorks. But
bro, here's your problem. Here's your problem. Every single business course I've ever taken, and I was the same way as you. They always had a section in the very beginning called mindset. Almost every single one, and I would always think the same thing, and I would always want to skip over it. And year after year, I kept finding myself in the same place, and I wonder what the reason was. It's because my mind wasn't right. It wasn't. I had all the tactics laid out in front of me, right? But for whatever reason, year after year after year, course after course after course, I never took the right action and followed through with everything. And it had nothing to do with their tactics. It had to do with the fact that my mind I didn't have my mind right. I wasn't in the right state of mind in order to break through my limiting beliefs and all these other things in order to follow through. And so people like us look at the mindset like it's woo-foo bullshit, this, that, and the third, but that's because our minds are the most fucked up. And you know what I'm saying? It's not until you get into that position where you're able to follow through and fully take action. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with what you're saying in terms of like, whatever I'm coming in with, and my results will tell me everything. Okay, so what I have currently will tell me what I've been committed to.
Right.
Okay, if I don't like what I've got, well, I've been committed to a bunch of shit I don't like, because that's how I've been showing up all the time. Now, how I've been showing up all the time is dictated a lot by what's going on up here. And if I don't like how I've been showing up because of what's been going on up here, well, then we could call that a mindset problem. And we might have to take a look at that. Right. And it's like, dude, there's constantly times where I have to be shifting my mindset all the time. If I'm in a state of growth, I'm going to be outgrowing versions of me. It might even work for a while, and then it stops working.
Right.
Because it's time to grow into a new set of ideas, new set of, maybe there's some limitations that I need to move past. And there's nothing wrong with that. The thing is, it's scary, right? And because it's scary, the easiest thing to do, or an easy thing to do when I'm scared, is blame. Because
True that.
I don't want to sit in my scaredness.
Yeah.
You know, that's fucking uncomfortable, bro. Like I'm a fucking tough guy, but I don't want to sit in my scaredness, right? In fact, I would say a lot of like the toughness is a way to like cope with the scaredness. You know. So yeah, of course, it makes sense. I'm very I'm compassionate to that. That like, okay, I get it. You know, I'm empathetic to that. That like, yeah, I get why you wouldn't want to sit in that. And that taking responsibility for how you feel and what you've created is not something that you're excited about doing. But here's the thing. It's the only way a person has power is to take responsibility for it. It's the only way. Because if I don't take responsibility, what I'm saying is I don't have any choice. It's all dependent on what you guys are doing. I have no choice and no agency in what happened. Right? That's the definition of a victim.
Ownership.
Right? Ownership.
Yeah.
Right? The definition of a victim. There are real victims in the world. If a woman's walking down the street and she gets sexually assaulted, like it wasn't her choice. It happened against her will. Right? That's a child gets abused. Right? That's a true victim victimship right there. They got victimized by a person they didn't have a choice. Right? Most of the things that we make ourselves victims about, we are not. Right? And a lot of times, even if we are a real victim, it's a choice to remain a victim.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I don't really like that victim mindset either. And a lot of people had that victim mindset. And I don't know. I think it's like, because you mainly work with like people who are already successful, right?
yeah.
Like how hard would it be to work with somebody who's not at that level of success they need to be at to even have these problems, these like work-life balance. Like, like if you're making a ton of money, you know, you got a successful business, and then you're like, well, I make all this money, but my wife's angry because I'm always at work.
Right.
It's a different problem than like, I ain't making that type of money yet, and like I got to make money for my wife, and so it's like that work-life. It's like work. It's more like work-life integration. Like, how do I put in the 16 hours a day at work and try to keep my wife happy, because I have to, because my business is not at a point where it could be stable yet. So I have to put in this work.
Well, so the process would look very much the same, right? and that's where the group coaching is actually fantastic, is because I can work with people that are in those scenarios, right, for significantly less money, and be able to answer these questions and start giving them guidance into how to move through that stuff, right? So it's somebody that's not making enough money, they won't, this work takes time for sure, right? That's why I generally only work with people on 3-month agreements. Like, I'm not just going to do one-offs with people, because the process that we have to go through is going to take some time to integrate, right? Yeah. So that being said, I would need to be in contact with these people on a regular basis, right? And they need to have direct feedback of like what they're doing and what's working and what's not working, and a willingness to if a person is stuck to that degree, there needs, really to any degree, just because you have money doesn't mean you're not stuck in other places, right? Just not having money just brings up a different set of problems than this other person has. It's a willingness to confront ourselves and be like, okay, what I have been doing currently has brought me these results, right? I can continue to fight it. I can continue to blame the fucking government. I can blame taxes. I can blame my wife. I can blame all these things. What am I going to do about it? If those circumstances don't change, right? We live in San Diego, California. It's the most expensive place on the fucking planet, pretty much. Yeah. Right? Okay. That may not change. Okay, what am I going to do about it? Like, my thing is, okay, I got to make more money. That's my solution to that problem.
Literally.
But like, if all these circumstances are the reason that I can't, or the reason I don't start, you're never going to get started.
Right.
You can always find a way to lose, right? One of my mentors says that often. There's like, some people are committed to finding a way to lose, and because then they don't have to take responsibility, which is so much easier to blame. So yeah, if there's people that are in that different case where they're not financially there yet, right? And we could get them clear on what's important to focus on first. Right? Yeah. If you've got all these moving parts and you got all this stress, dude, I'm sympathetic to that. I get it. I know how hard it is to just be worried about paying the bills, and am I going to have enough money to meet rent and all the, and man, I'd really like to take my wife out to eat, but I don't have enough money. Like, man, I'm sympathetic to that. Okay. Let's learn how to look at this whole pie, right? And decide what's the most important part to focus on first, right? And how to focus on different aspects of it so that you can start making some progress. Because there's nothing that, like, having some clarity to make some progress is so much better than just feeling like you're barely treading water and not making any process. Right. Like, just staying afloat is not making progress. Right. You know?
Have you worked with anybody in that position?
I take on what I call passion projects from time to time, because, like I said before, I
pro bonos.
Yeah, well, I always make people invest something, because if they don't invest anything, it's not going to be valuable to them. So I don't work for free ever. Right. I will ask that the person invests something, because if they don't, the chances of them valuing the time that we're going to spend together is the commitment might not be there. Sure. Right. So there are times, and it's case dependent, and sometimes it's just it's really just the flow of life brings me in contact with somebody. I'm like, man, I fucking really want to support this person. I feel like they've got, there's something there, a light that could be turned on and really put them in a direction, and they're ready to do the work.
Right. If you were to do the group coaching, how many people do you think you would cap it at per session?
Honestly, I'm still kind of in the formulative stage. This is all being put together right now. So the thing about the group coaching is, the price will make what they're getting so fucking valuable that I may not have to. I think there'll be tiers. Right. I think there'll be tiers. So where there'll be the first level, which is not capped. It could be as many people as that are come on, and the price will determine that it's valuable enough for them to turn on. Even if they don't get to ask a question, the information that comes back to them will be valuable enough to justify that. The tier up will be a little bit more access to me specifically. 10, maybe 15, something like that. That will look a little bit differently.
Shit, you can even have a group of 5.
Could have a group of 5.
Because I'm just thinking from my perspective, if I was to invest in something like that, I would be interested in okay, well, I can't spend, 10 grand a month, 5 grand a month, but maybe I can toss, 500.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? And get in there with like a few other people, but not like a group of like 100 people.
Right.
Right.
Because I still want to be able to speak to you
Yeah.
and like be heard and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's largely what it's going to look like.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember you said something a while back. It was one of your posts. You said that you're coming to, you want to be able to keep up with the young guys, the 20-year-olds,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And you're finding that to be harder and harder every year. And it's attack on your ego.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're getting older. Your body ain't recovering like it once used to.
For sure.
Take us through your mindset on getting older and not being able to keep up with the 20-year-olds anymore.
Yeah, so it definitely, it gets harder, or it's gotten harder. And there was like a mourning process, and sometimes it still comes up. It's like, man, it's like the death of an identity, right? Like I was talking about before, like, this is who I am. Dude, I felt like a fucking monster. Like I felt like I could hang with the world-class guys real well up till I was just turned 40. I'm 42 now, and I'll be 43 in February. So there was a mourning process to that. It was like, man, like this part of me is changing, and I have a lot of my identity tied up into that, right? And so it's been, a process to let a lot of that go. And it's also realizing, but I'm also being like, a lot of that needing to be the best at that there was a lot of selfishness involved with that. It's a way that I could let myself feel secure, right? And so to let that go frees up a lot more energy to move into this deeper calling of being of service to people, right? So look, if I'm training twice a day and really focusing on my recovery and doing all that stuff, I could probably still keep up a little bit longer. But then I gotta have no energy to do shit else, right? And like, who am I serving by doing that?
Right.
What purpose am I living to by doing that?
Yeah.
Holding on to my youth, it's like at a certain point, I understand it, but at a certain point, it's selfish and it's kind of pathetic, It's the young lion eventually, there's the silverbacks that are on the mat and there to give guidance and I mean, I'm still no slouch, that's for sure, but I think being around and being a professional athlete, being around professional athletes, that grading curve is a little bit steeper than if you just at your local BJJ gym.
Right.
That's not really like competition driven,
Right.
And so it's comparing myself to these people and not looking at, well, my journey is looking different now because my life looks different.
Right.
Like competing and training martial arts is honestly not the most important thing to me anymore. Right. There's things in my life that are more important to me.
Yeah.
My purpose has changed.
I feel like it still bothers you a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Rightfully. Yeah, I get it.
But
Yeah,
less
yeah.
and less so.
Yeah.
Less and less so. I'm able to.
Do you feel like people won't respect you as much, like as the black belt, as a professional athlete? Do you feel like if let's say a fucking 22-year-old just stud of a purple belt comes in and gets the best of you, like do you feel like you're not gonna get respected by people as much?
I think that's probably a thought, but that's a thought that's largely just in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you respect? Would you respect him if
Well,
purple belt came in and got the best of him that day?
Bro, I mean, I'm not as good as Eric, but like, I had to go through like a little bit of identity, like with training, just be like, just like almost make me not want to go train anymore, just because like I feel like, I've been doing jiu-jitsu this long and,
Right.
I'm just getting smoked.
Yeah.
I can't keep up cardio-wise. I let myself get fat, and it just makes me not want to go into the gym. Everyone wants to take my head off because I'm a higher belt. And it's just like, and I'm like, I need like 3 months to get back in shape. And like, people don't want to give me that.
What does it take? How do you maintain the belt? Like, do you have to continue fighting?
No,
you
don't
can
have
just
to
hold
maintain
on to
anything.
that.
There's guys that don't maintain it at all. There's guys that stop upgrading their jiu-jitsu, and a lot of what they're teaching is kind of passe at this point.
Yeah.
I think that's more of a problem than just getting older.
Yeah.
I think, look, people are always going to have, oh, wow, that guy did that to such and such, and that's going to happen, and there's always going to be how I want to be viewed.
Yeah.
And sometimes how I want to be viewed is going to be in contrast to the reality of things, or just the evolution of time and things go on.
It doesn't take away your accomplishment, though, the fact that you got the belt. So it's
Well,
like
that, and
people should
also
respect that.
it's like being a black belt and being a leader on the mat
Right.
has far more to do with your ability to compete and fight. It's like, can I transfer that knowledge onto other people?
Right.
That's really important. Dude, it's like you watch the NFL and nobody's like, how come the coach isn't getting out there and
Right.
and running through the D-line, running through the offensive line and destroying the quarterback?
Most of the time they sucked at
Yeah.
football.
Well, they're great. Well, and
I know that's not how it works necessarily in martial arts, but it's like it's a little bit different. But yeah.
Well, there's always that saying, like, those who can do and those who can't teach.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's sometimes the truth. You know,
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
the truth. Yeah.
So what are your workouts looking like these days, though?
I mean, I still get on the mat pretty much every day.
Yeah.
If not, I've recently got back into strength training a little
Nice.
bit. It's kind of boring, but I just do it anyway.
Yeah.
There's something to do for my body. I do a fair bit of like mobility and things like that. I'm the more as time goes on and my energy becomes more important to me, because man, I'm putting out energy into people all day long. How to maintain and expand my own energy is really important. So like longevity is really important to me. Like the ability to, my capacity to be able to put energy and give outwards is really important. So that's a big focus. It's like I can't go have hard sparring days every day and be able to do that anymore. It's just not going to happen for me. I'm also like super fast twitch muscle. So like my shit gets like, I get beat up fast.
Yeah.
Like, it's because the muscle contractions are so
Intense.
hard, fast, and intense. Yeah, I get worn out pretty, like from a couple of those hard days in a row, I'll be worn out pretty good.
yeah.
Cheetah.
How do you,
60 miles an hour, and then I can't move for 2
Yeah.
days.
how do you I want to ask you about this. How do you feel about, I call them professional amateurs, like the jiu-jitsu guys, like, you know, like they just take to jiu-jitsu really well. They're pretty good. They do well in the tournaments, but they have their other jobs and everything, and they walk around the gym, you know, like a little bit pudgy, you know, because they don't strength train. They're just like jiu-jitsu purists, and they're decent. They're good at jiu-jitsu. They win the tournaments and stuff. But they walk around like with their chest all high, you know, because they won some tournaments. And I just, how do you feel about those guys? Like, because I respect a little bit more the MMA guys, because they treat it like an actual profession. You know, they're in the gym, strength training, they're dieting, and they're fighting. They're taking abuse as well. You know what I mean? Like, so what is your feelings towards that?
I want to say initially, like I don't really have like a judgment about that one way or the other. Like if that's what they want to do, that's fine. I mean, if you're a professional, I don't know, if you're a lawyer, you have a career and you're doing jiu-jitsu as a side hobby and you know, you end up getting pretty good jiu-jitsu and you have a little bit of cockiness about you. I mean, comparative to most lawyers, I mean, why not have a little cockiness about you if you can also beat somebody's ass too? Like, dude, it's, I don't know. I used to kind of like, when I was purely a fighter, definitely look down on the jiu-jitsu guys a little bit. I think I've gotten away from that for whatever, because it doesn't matter. It's like, fighters are going to win more fights in a real fight than jiu-jitsu people. Jiu-jitsu people will beat up most people that aren't trained or don't know, you know, like haven't been trained in how to fight. So it's all relative. It's like, what's important to you, right? Being the toughest person is probably not that important to a lot of people, right? Being able to adequately defend yourself might be fairly important, right?
Do you feel like in order to get your black belt in jiu-jitsu, you should have fought MMA at least once in your career?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Actually, I do feel that way.
Well, because, I mean, there's been lots of black belts that never fought MMA. Like prior to you even knowing about what jiu-jitsu was, I would bet that there's been black belts that have never fought MMA. And as a matter of fact, I know there are.
But isn't MMA by definition mixed martial arts?
It's mixed
so
martial
it's
arts,
not
like
just jiu-jitsu. So it's like blending in three different.
Well, I guess my feelings towards it is like I mean, there's jiu-jitsu purists, but it's like if you don't know how to take a punch, or you don't know how to throw a punch, or you don't know how to I'm all for like jiu-jitsu, like winning, you know, if it goes to the ground. But it's like I feel like you should also know how to fight a little bit. You know what I mean? Be able to like throw some hands. You know, taking away the sports aspect of it and turn it into more of the martial arts aspect of it. But also, like, the older I get, obviously, my feelings towards it change. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, remember I was telling you about, like, just in the old school gyms, just taking abuse, you know? Like, and then I remember there was, like, a change. So, like, it was like you take abuse, you give abuse, you know, and then you become the abuser type of thing. And then I remember there was a strong change to where I got good enough to now it's my turn. I get to be the abuser. But then because culture changed so rapidly at that same time, I wasn't allowed to be the abuser, and I felt robbed a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I don't get my get back.
No, I think what you're saying is valid. I think, like, as I'm listening to you, the filter you're looking at this through is the filter of the abuse that used to go on, you know, in the gym. And I get it. Like, you know, my journey's a little bit different. I was always
the abuser,
one of the better guys in the gym.
Yeah.
So for somebody who doesn't know, can you give me an example of what you're talking about? Like all the abuse that you're talking about? Like, give me an example so I understand.
Well, I say it's abuse as an easier way to understand.
But what do you mean? Yeah.
It was definitely to build more mindset resilience. Like, it was like you became resilient mindset wise. You know, you could get your ass beat and you're not gonna give up. You're gonna fight to every like last bit of energy in your. You're gonna fight to the very fucking end till you like pretty much almost like die. You know what I mean? But it's like so long ago now. It's like.
So, but you're just talking about like in sparring or like what? Like I'm talking about from a literal standpoint.
There would be hazing. There would be
it's hard to explain.
There would be hazing.
Yeah.
There would be definitely a pecking order. Like if you're at the bottom of the pecking order, you're gonna clean the mats. You might even go fucking get us drinks. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be treated definitely different than the people at the top of the pecking order.
Right.
Some of that I look at as, you know, earning your way into the gym, paying your dues, right? Yeah, I think there's a rites of passage, I think is probably a better way to put it. I think some people would take it a little bit too far. Definitely when I was younger, I took that shit way too far because when you're in the gym, it's like that becomes the whole world and everything outside of that is this other thing. And, then I realized none of this is, dude, if fighting, this is all fucking fake. If fighting went away today, the world would be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
If nobody ever fought again, the world would be fine.
Yeah.
And like, so fighting in and of itself is not that important. It's the journey of training a martial art that's important. So yeah, the idea that like, because somebody's a black belt or because they're a tough guy, that they are somehow, do some type of different treatment is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
It's probably a culture that got passed down from a point when it was important.
Yeah.
You know, because there was
that's
a point.
That's a valid point.
No, you
as
do
well.
need to know how to fight because we have to defend our village. We have to do this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And don't get me wrong. I think every man should know how to fight.
Yeah.
Like
Right. I think
like mentally tough.
Yeah.
I think every man should have a basic understanding of how to defend himself. I don't think we're at a place yet where we can let go of that. I think it's an important thing. I think the adversity that it forces one to go through, the relationship with discomfort. I think we all need to have a relationship with violence. Violence still goes on in the world for sure. I think it's the fact that a lot of people don't have relationships with violence that's a problem. When two men have a relationship with violence, it's my experience that they're going to tend to be a little bit more courteous to each other, right? So you and I just interacting like, okay, I don't know how much of a relationship he has with violence, but he's definitely got a relationship with violence, right? And I'm going to respect that.
Yeah.
I'm going to respect that, right? And not just that, but it's like, okay, what he's been willing to go through to create that relationship with violence is something that I also respect. And I'm also just generally not looking for a problem with people.
Right.
But I think that relationship does create a general courteousness. It could also create some tyrants as well. But I think largely there's a huge respect factor when you recognize that somebody else also has done the work to create that relationship with, you know, something that's difficult to create a relationship with.
What I find more times than not, like you do have like the bullies, but more times than not, like the the fighter, the guy who's like very intimate with violence, will tend to be more courteous and give you like a thousand's way out.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to do
Dude.
this. Don't fight me. But then the second it turns into violence, they're quick to like, okay, we turn it on. You know, and it's not emotional. It's no seeing red or seeing black or whatever. It's almost like a cat and mouse. You know what I mean?
So my judo sensei, older guy, he's got to be in his 70s now. Man, maybe even older. He might even be in his 80s now. When I met him, yeah, he was in his like late 50s, maybe early 60s. Heavy set guy. He was an Olympic alternate in like the 1964 games for judo. Bad motherfucker. And he was telling me one day I was in a parking lot and this guy started raging on him over a parking spot. And the guy gets out of his car, starts walking over to his vehicle. So the judo coach was no sucker. He got out of the car to make sure he doesn't get caught sitting in his car. And as the guy got close to him, he just looked him dead in his eye very calmly and said, listen, you have no idea what you're about to get yourself into. Right? And the guy just turned around and got back in his car.
Yeah.
Right? And like, honestly, I've had to, you know, borrowing a similar vein, I've had guys, usually because of my ears, people don't get too cute with me too often. But in the event somebody does, you know, want to get fly with me for whatever reason, I'm just like, listen, man, this is not going to work out the way you think it is.
Right.
So please, I'm giving you every opportunity to turn around.
Right.
Right. Rarely does that ever have it happen. I think one of my favorite quotes is, no one will ever know the amount of violence it took to become this gentle. Right.
Yeah.
And because I think, and dude, I used to be a bully. Like when I was in my 20s, early 30s, a bully. In the gym, out of the gym, a bully. But because I kept on the path of martial arts, it gave me time to reflect and not want to be that anymore and become something different, right? Become somebody that serves people instead of just tries to dominate people.
Right.
What was that mind shift change? Because you said you're 42.
Yeah.
I feel like that's 10 years ago. That's around the same time, like just fighting in general, like had a culture shift where it wasn't about being like that bully anymore. Like what was that journey like for you where you were like, I don't have to be a bully no more. I don't have to be a tough guy.
I didn't like the results that it was bringing to my life. It was like lonely. You know, it's lonely, and I realized it was coming from a scared place. Bullies are scared people. That's why they bully people. They're scared. I stopped being scared of certain things, so I didn't need to be a bully anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, sometimes it's
Was there a defining moment?
man, I think it was just a process. You know, I think it was a process as opposed to like one clear moment, to be honest. Yeah, just a lot of reflection of how I was treating people. My ideas about leadership had to change. For a long time, when I was like in the street, I was a leader, right? Not leading people to anything good, but a leader. I've always been a leader. But my idea of leadership was that the leader was to be served, right? And then I realized, like, that's not what it is. The leader is to serve. To lead is to serve. And, you know, in the midst of that transformation, it's just been a deeper reflection. And, yeah, it's just grown from there.
Do you feel like every young man should become intimate with violence? Like every young man should learn how to fight? I sort of feel that. I feel like every
you know
man
what?
should be whether you're a scholar or a nice guy, like everyone should know how to fight.
I'll say this. I don't know if it's like a should or shouldn't question. There's benefits for anyone to learn how to fight. Is probably a way that I would put it, right? So, yeah, because I know people, I'm like, is this? Like, I'm thinking of people offhand that are just sensitive and gentle in nature, and they're just really But even then, I think it's great to have the know-how. I think our body is our responsibility, and having the knowledge of how to use our body you don't have to become a world-class killer. Just having some basic knowledge into how to defend yourself, I think is every person's responsibility. Like, it would be great if there was no more attackers and no more victimization, but
That'll never go away.
I don't know that that's going to go away anytime soon, so I'd rather be prepared. Right?
Of course.
What is something like if you could talk to your 18-year-old self right now, what was some like solid advice you would give yourself?
I would encourage him to seek out paths to confront his pain so that he didn't have to carry that pain around for as long as he did and create the wreckage that he did. I think, when I look back, all the wreckage that I created was because of the pain that I was in. And if I had a solid path to confront that pain, I think that could have shifted things earlier for me. That being said, it's like I'm very glad that my life took the course it did, because it shaped things to turn out the way that they are, and I'm really happy the way things are right now. I don't really have any regrets. I wish I would have hurt less people along the way. If I could take that back, I would. You know, like I said, I did some pretty horrible things to people when I was out in the street and afterwards. And if I could take those things back, yeah, I would take that back. You know, because those people had to go on and live with the things that I did to them, and I can do my own healing bit, but I don't, who knows what they went and did with that. So if I could have hurt less people, that's something I definitely would have done.
Were you able, like back then when you were hurting people, did you have justifications to why you were hurting them?
I just didn't even care. I didn't need a justification.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was funny. I would laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would enjoy it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this in the shower today. I'm like, man, it's actually astonishing that where my life path, like I didn't become some sort of complete sociopath and really go in a far more worse direction. Like I could have gone in a direction of people that like went down a really bad, dark path. I definitely liked to hurt people in a sadistic way when I was a kid. And for whatever reason, and I definitely hurt some people, for whatever reason, things aligned to where I got to heal from a lot of that stuff and didn't go down that path. You know, like it was my childhood was quite dark, and there was some definitely like red flags for sure as a young kid, you know. And I'm fortunate that it didn't go that way, and I got the ability to turn my life around. But it could easily have not been that way. Yeah, so I'm very, very lucky.
Yeah,
in that regard.
Man,
Are you able to pinpoint anything specific as to why you think you were able to make it out of the darkness?
Well, I think this. I look back at like me and my friends, right? And so, dude, and I'll share about this because I was a kid and I was like heavily traumatized. I used to love like killing insects and animals and stuff like that. And like I felt some sense of control when I would like, do things to animals, and even my brother, I would abuse the shit out of my brother. I'd beat my brother up bad, like a stranger, and like I enjoy. And then I'd go out and I'd beat up the kids in the neighborhood and fucking hurt them and terrorize some of these kids. And I was little, like I was not muscular at all. I was a tiny little kid. That feeling of control was like intoxicating to me, and I just grew that. And also, there was a part of me that just wanted to be liked and love everybody, but that got shut off real young. My house was not a safe place, and I think I always knew more was possible for me. I always knew that I could make something of myself. I don't know that all my friends thought that they could make something of themselves. And that's why a lot of them are dead or just, not in a great spot in where they're living at in their life, at least the guys that I grew up with. And so I think just having that possibility,
right?
Like I think possibility is one of the strongest things that a person can have in their mind. That's why I'm so big on like not limiting myself to a specific definition of who I am,
right?
Because it cuts me off from possibility.
Right.
And I saw when you really cut yourself off from possibility, well, you're basically saying your life is defined for you,
right?
And so because I just had this weird childlike sense of possibility, and I could do these things. I always had these like grandiose ideas of what I was capable of. I was always told I was smart, I'll say. And so I could figure things out, and I would have like complex thoughts about things from quite a young age. And I think that carried me through. I think the possibility of more carried me through. And I would just cling on to it, because what else do you fucking cling on to when you're a strung out homeless junkie, as a teenager?
Yeah. Wow. That's great, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I think that's cool that like you went through that, you made it through the other side, and I think that's what makes you a great mentor to other people, because you've got to see it from an extreme side. And so like So what you've been through, like which majority of people go through, is sort of like doesn't touch that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like if I was able to get through this and fix myself, you're easy. We can fix you pretty easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it definitely helps, right? It definitely helps that I've experienced what I've experienced and come out the other side. Do I think it's necessary? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you have to go through some shit. I think what it really helps is the safety. Like, hey, bro, whatever you fucking tell me right now that's going on in your head or that you experienced, I'm not gonna bat an eye.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And like, not only am I not that I don't care, right? But like I'm not gonna waver from that. Some people, if you tell them these really dark, hard things, they're unable to sit with it because of their discomfort with that stuff. There's not a lot that a person can come to me with that's gonna make me uncomfortable.
Right.
You know, and so I can stay rock solid for them while we go through this process because that's part of my job.
Yeah, that definitely helps. That's definitely a security thing because
Trust.
Trust. It's
right?
exactly.
Trust.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and like just to be able to build that innate sense of trust, like right off the bat, it's always been there for me. It's always been there for me where people just put me in a room, let's start talking, and it'll just come out. Because I don't have like, how's the weather conversations. It's just, maybe I'm like slightly on the spectrum, but just don't have those type of conversations, you know?
Yeah, miss me with the small talk. Let's get down to your traumas.
Yeah.
Let's fix you. So what is your goals now for like the next 5 years? Like, where are you taking the business?
So growing the group coaching thing, I think is going to be really awesome. I like building that energy with groups of people. Live events. So I just did a free live event just recently here in San Diego. Had a room full of people. It was really cool. Just very base level personal growth stuff. Just wanted to give some people in the community an introduction to what investing just their time could do for them by getting a different view on things. It's so hard when you either haven't invested in yourself before or gun shy about investing anything to realize like what your takeaway could be from like investing in your own growth. And I used to, if you told me like to invest like $300 a couple of years ago, I would have been like, what? Like I invest thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars now on my growth because I know the return, right? I know the more value I can add, the more value I'm going to see back. And it's like I'm in love with that part of things. And I just love learning new ways to be more effective.
Yeah.
Right. So bringing more live events into the community and just, growing that. I really enjoy speaking. I love connecting with people and seeing people's eyes light up and just to grow my brand from there, grow my reach from there. Over the next couple of years, I think starting a podcast of my own this year is going to be
nice. Yeah. What are you going to call it?
I think we're going to go with Tough Conversations with Eric Uresk. So
okay, I like that.
Yeah,
man, that's cool that you take into video as a marketing tool. It's one of the most powerful marketing tools you can use. I've been seeing your clips before. I saw a lot of your writings. Yeah. Now I'm seeing a lot of the clips. You probably realize a lot of people are more willing to watch a video than you are to read a story. And I think it's just a very powerful way to get your story out there. You know?
Video is great, dude. I think video is the way. I love writing, and I hope writing doesn't get lost completely, but I think like people are much less apt to sit through,
Have you wrote a book yet?
I'm like 60,000 words into a book, but I haven't completed it.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, but I enjoy writing. I enjoy the process of writing. I always have, even as a kid.
Right. Yeah. One of our guests, he brought his book, Dre Evans.
Prove them wrong.
Nice.
Prove them wrong. I can't wait to have your book right here on the shelf as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So 60,000 words. How many pages is that?
I want to say there's like 300 to 500 words to a page.
Okay, so do the math.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to come out. And like any way we can help, man, please let us know, man. We love this shit.
Shout out your where people can find you, your Instagram,
your
website.
Yeah. So I'm real easy to find right now. So just come to my Instagram. I do answer DMs, even to people just asking questions. I don't mind supporting people, and you know, if it takes 5 minutes out of my day to look at something that somebody's coming to me with, I don't mind doing that. I think it's just good to kick that energy around. So,
sure.
And you can, you'll be fully up to date on all the things that I got going on, all the projects that are out, all my offers that are current. And I'm very interactive. I post at least a few times a week. So
Nice.
yeah.
So I did it by 400 words.
Okay.
So you had 3 fields, so 150 pages.
Okay. Yeah. Something
Nice.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good.
Yeah.
I mean, his book is long.
But I need my shit all needs to be edited and shit.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. It's just like 400 pages, bro.
His book is
Dre's got us out here reading.
Yeah.
400. Yeah, but it's also like not small print either. So
Right.
yeah, easy to do. Well, not easy. All right. Shout out your IG. Don't worry, I'm knocking everything down.
He already shouted it out, didn't you?
Yes.
Eric the Gentleman.
Yes, sir.
Are you on YouTube as well?
Not yet, but that's coming. Just got the channel started.
Nice. And are you on Twitter?
Not on Twitter.
Or X? All right, cool. Instagram, Eric the Gentleman. YouTube coming soon. Podcast coming soon.
Yeah.
Man, thank you for coming, bro.
And book coming
Appreciate
soon.
you, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
All right. This has been another episode of the Get Louder Podcast.
Boom.
We out.